Or what if suddenly everybody moved to these states for freedom and then suddenly they flipped the switch? Suddenly they instituted personal income tax in Florida, or they did something else where now they had to, you were required to drive an electric vehicle, or fill in the blank. Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. We're continuing our conversation about should you stay or should you go? What is your last straw in terms of leaving where you might be? Have you already left? And then one of my lovely Healthy Americans, Leah, in a previous episode commented that perhaps moving to another state, for example, a lot of people are moving to the South. Could that be a trap? Could it be a setup? And I really want to explore this idea with you. And I'd like you to be open-minded. And I know that you are, because you are my lovely, healthy Americans. It's important to be prepared. I did a video called 20 ways to prepare for the potential collapse. And there are more than 20 ways. There are probably 200 ways or 2,000 ways, but these were some right off the top of my head. And I started thinking about people who are leaving their state, and they're doing so possibly in a panic, or they're doing so because they think the grass is greener on the other side. And it very well may be. We had people say that they were moving to New Hampshire, and that New Hampshire has a freedom project going on. And it sounds like a beautiful state. I've been to many states in the United States, but I have not been to New Hampshire. It sounds amazing, very gorgeous, and also cold. That's something when I grew up in California, I'm really used to warm weather. Even Northern California is too cold for me. Not to say that that's a deal breaker, but kind of is my comfort zone. People have said Arkansas is amazing and gorgeous and a very open, patriot place to be. I met somebody at the event that I spoke at last night in the Republican group, and he said that Indiana was incredible and that they're very self-sufficient. Nobody's going around with any of the hogwash. They are all patriots. They're red-blooded Americans. They're down to earth. They're freedom fighters. And he said he loves Indiana. And he's here from Southern California, and he's considering getting a house in Indiana. I have heard really good things about Missouri, that Missouri and other states such as Nebraska and Iowa in the central part of the United States are very open, very down to earth. And again, you need to consider the weather, of course, because is that something that you can deal with? I don't know. Those are all individual choices to make, but Iowa sounds pretty darn cold. And then we had a Healthy American say that Paraguay is awesome and inexpensive. And I think a lot of people are going to be considering moving to other countries. And here's why. The bad guys, the evildoers, the hogwashers, the puppet masters are after the United States because we are the last bastion of freedom. We are the grand prize. We are the icing on the cake. We are the brass ring, whatever you want to call it. They want to take the United States down because we are so powerful economically. And it has been the agenda of the bad guys since the birth of this country. They have always sought to infiltrate, to take it down, to poke holes in the ship, and so forth. You know that, and I know that. So moving to a country like Paraguay, where it may not be based on a constitutional republic, at least you know what you're getting. I've said that many times. I mean, people that live in Mexico, you're not there in a free country. So maybe being under a totalitarian government and a totalitarian regime, you're like, well, that's what I signed up for. But to see freedom, or our illusion of freedom, be destroyed in front of our own eyes, it's really, really hard to take. Let me give you an example of when I lived in Central California, and the area that I lived in was very beautiful. It was already built out, so there wasn't a lot of building and construction and new development going on because the city kind of had already sort of reached its max at the outer limits. But when I drove home to Orange County, or what had been my home in Orange County, all I saw were like the seas of new houses and developments and beautiful rural land that was now had, Taco Bells on it and everything. And it really pained me to see this beautiful land be taken over and developed, where if I lived in a place that was already developed, I wouldn't have to see that before my own eyes. Do you know what I'm talking about there? Maybe you're saying, Peggy, it doesn't matter. But for me, it's a lot harder to see and to face and to see that destruction happening before my very eyes. So if I lived in Tijuana, for example, I'm not going to get all bent out of shape that they're not following the law, because I don't anticipate that they're going to follow the law. So in some ways, like when I lived in Morocco, I was much more easygoing in certain ways, because I knew that I was not living in a constitutional republic with elected representatives. I knew that this was a monarchy and a totalitarian regime, and that certain things were just going to be the way they were. So in a strange way, I could tolerate it a little bit better. Let me know if that makes sense to you. And then the other thing, and what I really want to ask you is that is it actually something that could be helpful, or could it be a trap? I always like to dig deeper, and I'm thinking about Florida, and I'm thinking about DeSantis, and I'm thinking about how he, with maybe one or two or just a handful of other governors, how they have broken away from all of the other tyrannical so-called governors in the United States. And I'm thinking, how could the bad guys let him get away with this? How could the evildoers allow that? Is it because he's got gumption, because he is a patriot, because he's willing to stand up against these guys like we are all willing to stand up? I hope that's true. I hope that he is authentic and sincere and genuine. And maybe he is. Are the bad guys letting him get away with that so that more and more people will move out of states like California and Washington and Oregon and New Jersey and Connecticut and Pennsylvania and New York, so that we really will give these states over to be completely overrun by the bad guys with no one left to fight? And then they'll shuttle everybody in. All the patriots will be in one area. And by patriots, I just mean freedom fighters. I'm not talking politically or anything, but those who care about freedom, they'll all be in one area. Wouldn't it be easier for a takedown of everyone that's been shuttled more or less into one area? Or what if suddenly everybody moved to these states for freedom, and then suddenly they flipped the switch? Suddenly they instituted personal income tax in Florida, or they did something else where now you were required to drive an electric vehicle, or fill in the blank. Leah said they may be pushing people into the South so that then they could have a weather event, and there could be widespread destruction of people's homes. They could lose their jobs. They could lose their lives. And you know what has happened in previous weather events? People have become more dependent on the government because they get government loans. They're living in government housing. I traveled to New Orleans in, oh my gosh, it was 2005. Can you believe how long ago that was? 18 years ago, I guess 17 years ago, in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, because I was doing animal rescue. And I traveled there again later, and they still had not cleaned up all of the devastation. Now, there may be reasons for that, but it's like, wow, the people still are, many of them were still dependent on the government. So I'm going to take a look at your comments. And I also am going to pose the question again. So, is moving the answer, or is it a trap? And I want to know where you have moved to, where you are considering moving to, and why. So Kansas said that Britain did not take defeat, and they infiltrated when they realized they couldn't invade, thanks to the Second Amendment. Oh, I forgot to show you this wonderful book by a patriot who wrote it, and he is the son of a friend of mine. I will share that with you next week. So let's see. Someone else said I've been saying the same about people from New York and moving to Florida, and California, people moving to Texas to corral them because it's easier to control. And they know who they are. They know where they are. And if they flip the switch in terms of the politics, now they're really under the gun. Where are they going to move to next? So I'm still just exploring this concept. I'm very curious to see what you have to say. Kitty Cat is skeptical about DeSantis. Trisha thinks that it is a trap. Mary's interested in moving to Arizona. LG says, why leave when you can change the state? That would be ideal. There is something very engaging about fighting and knowing that you are standing for something. And what's crazy is that, as we've said many times, there are more of us than there are of them. When I look at the Californians that I know, and when I travel throughout California, it's mainly conservative. There are pockets of complete around the bend lefties in San Francisco, Los Angeles, even areas of San Diego. And I also think a lot of that is drummed up, that people move there for that purpose. And then these, like the mayor of San Diego just does not represent what the people of San Diego want. And they are installed, in my view, though they are selected for these offices. And I believe that there are key areas, especially in California, in New York, where these individuals are installed in these areas, but other places are kind of overlooked. There are plenty of city councils, of mayors of small towns in California that declared themselves sanctuary states away from all of the hogwash, and they did not go along with it whatsoever. And the powers that be just ignore them because they're not main areas. You know, they're not the huge metropolis. So definitely they are targeting San Diego, they are targeting Orange County, they are targeting Los Angeles, and go on up the state. Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo is very, very conservative. I was in the county of Ventura, extremely conservative. Of course, you're not going to hear that on the news. So there are people that are standing and fighting. And I'm telling you, it's thrilling. I had an amazing event with these patriots in Ventura. And it's like, these are my peeps. We're supporting each other. We're collaborating. We know where to go if there is some kind of disaster. So I am of the mind that you really cannot outrun the lava flow. It will get to you at some point. And my best antidote, and what I say, is that we have to live every day in liberty. People will say, Peggy, we need a larger group. We need to be more unified. I think we need more independence. I think we need smaller groups and more of them. I think we need each individual living in liberty. We need each individual standing up against this. And that is how I have been living all of these last couple of years. I simply do not comply. Never have, never will. I don't care the cost. I'm not going to do it. So that is how we get through it. We find another way, and there is always another way, and you will find it. And live each day fully, with joy, with love, with according to God's laws. And if you would like more of my own encouragement on an emotional level, please join me in the mornings over at my other channel. Let me know in a comment below if you follow those videos, and they're in the mornings at 11 a.m. Pacific over at Living Swell with Peggy Hall here on YouTube. And we talk all about keeping your head above the waves, about taking care of you, about healing broken relationships, about setting boundaries, simplifying and decluttering your life, everything that you can do that the government can't touch. So here's your homework assignment as we close out the week here. And thank you so much for being on board with me this late Friday night. Wherever you are, it's a Friday evening for me. I want you to make a list of at least as many things as you can, maybe 20, 30, 50 things that you can write down that the government can't touch in your life. The government cannot touch my moods. It cannot touch my outlook. The government has no control over my happiness because I create happiness with my own thoughts and my own feelings. The government has no control over what I do in my own home. I can take a bubble bath. I can read a book. I can play with my animals. Of course, they probably want to destroy the animals coming to a state near you. We'll talk about, I want to talk to you about rabies coming up because that's the next hoopla that they're sloshing all over us. And because they do want to take away your animals, I promise you that. But now I can play the piano. I can cuddle with my animals. I can make a nice meal. I can listen to music. I can write I can write a book, I can read a book. So think of all of the things that you can do that the government cannot touch currently. And I want you to focus on those things. I want you to enjoy your life, because when you're spending 24/7 in the spin cycle, worried about the doomsday, it is actually depleting your life energy. I have a video on my other channel, Living Swell with Peggy Hall, called How Do You Spend Your Grains of Rice? It's one of my favorite videos. It expands on this concept, and I would like for you to watch that and give me your feedback. Let's close out and see a few more of your comments here. And again, thanks, Valerie, Margie. I really appreciate your dedication being moderators here for the channel. And I appreciate all of you lovely, healthy Americans giving me your feedback, your comments. I read all of your comments. I don't always have time to reply to all of them, but please know that I also read your emails, and you can email us support@thehealthyamerican.org. Let's see. Gann calls it strategic relocation and did it years ago, and glad that he did. I would love to hear where you are and why. People left everything and moved to Florida where rents almost tripled. That's what Kitty Cat said. Yes. Okay, I love your comments here. We're entering into a digital prison trap, Matthew says. We the people have the power to stop it by resisting and never complying. You're absolutely right. James says that the water is withering and dying due to water restrictions. I'm not following any of them. There, I said it. D-Wheel says that he gets the suspicion that they're all hurting the good, decent people, Americans, to areas that they plan to devastate. That would be so sad. JP says Arkansas is from where the Clintons are from. Maybe says her sister's in Indiana and she loves it. And Trisha, I remember you telling me this, Trisha, in Indiana, that the solar farms are coming in and taking over the farmland. That's horrible. And that we need to talk about, the deception of solar energy. Oh, I know. Some of you sell solar energy packages, and I wish you all the best in your career, but we need to talk about the facts of solar, and we need to talk about everything about all of that alternative energy and why is it needed anyway when gasoline is an inexhaustible resource. Yes, I'll have to talk about that next week. I promise to talk about that, and electric vehicles. Yes, and we'll talk about rabies. Email me your ideas for videos, support@thehealthyamerican.org. Tricia says America has so many resources, and that's what they want. You're right. They want the people, the money, and the rich resources. And California is among the most abundant states in the entire United States. I'm glad and I'm proud to be a Californian. I always loved California, and I still love the state of California, and I love the people of California. It's the politicians and the public serpents. Yes, you got that right. I coined that phrase, the public serpents, that I abhor. Nicole says, get the Alexa Pure to clean out dirty water. Good. Yeah, we'll have to have more. We'll do more of the videos on prepping for sure. Mary says, do a lot of research, otherwise you're going to learn the hard way. Jeff says that he's in Minnesota. Anybody can handle the weather. You just need to dress for it. You know, Jeff, that is such a great comment, because it doesn't matter if the weather is cold. Actually, it only matters if you're cold, and you can get warm depending on how you dress. I love that. The weather doesn't really matter. Leah was interested in Costa Rica, but they can wipe out a region with one volcano. Oh dear. Very interesting. Gann is staying to fight. It's the last stand. Maybe likes Mexico. My dad loved Mexico. He is now enjoying eternal glory in heaven, but he loved Mexico. He was a foreign exchange student in Mexico. We've done many, many trips being in California. He spoke Spanish, and I really share his love of Mexico, and I love the Mexican culture. Okay, D. Wheel is talking about the weather and to look up all the information. We'll be talking more about that. I'm going to be doing a private webinar so that we can speak freely off this platform all about it. Okay. Rachel never had a mortgage and bought the condo 29 years ago. That's fantastic. Is it still possible to invest there now? I'm wondering. D-Wheel says that non-compliant regions might be deprived of goods, services, medical equipment, seeing this kind of thing from Justin Castro in Canada. Yes, I did a video on that. I need to do a follow-up video with a little more digging to share that with you. Yes, absolutely. B Still says, look up SB 2006 that says you can get the cooties cure by any means necessary. And we have that law in California. I'm going to share that with you. I believe it's Health and Safety Code 101040. I'll be doing a video about that as well. And I think all of these I know that all of these governors belong to it's almost like a union for governors, and they all get their marching orders and they all follow them the same way. Some may be ahead, maybe others are lagging, if you know what I mean. Some are curious about DeSantis and saying to dig deeper on that. D-Wheel is concerned about growing our own food. They may just spray the poison. See, I think it's important to grow food indoors. There are a lot of great videos on how to do that. Valerie is considering Arizona. Yeah, a lot of people move to Arizona, and I need an ocean, friends. Frankly, I really do. I know it might sound superficial, but I really need to be by the water for my own well-being. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I love you have, oh my gosh, so many great comments. I'm going to read through these. And okay, Maximum will, Joyce loves Florida. She's been there for 10 years. Joyce, I would love to know where in Florida. You can email me if you don't want to tell me publicly. Email support@thehealthyamerican.org. I would love to know where you are and why. It's so interesting. And then Maximum says, this is really interesting. I got to keep going here. Maximum says, moving to another state will only delay the inevitable. There is no alternative but to stay and fight with determination. That is so inspiring to me, Maximum. There is a power that comes from knowing you're standing up for what you believe in, that you're not going to turn and go. Again, everyone has their own choice. And if they like their reasons for their choices, it's absolutely valid and they should do what they believe, but not because they believe it will be easier and they're going to outrun the volcano. So here's another one. Cindy says, look at the map of the West Coast. It will be a non-human zone if they get the way. They are driving people where they want them. So then you need to go to a place where they don't want you to go. Like Wyoming, I think that might be safe. Wyoming, Montana, kind of off the radar. South Dakota, that sounds really hard. Yes, Nicole says we are definitely under a spiritual warfare and we battle that by putting on the whole armor of God, don't we? I love your comments. My healthy Americans are so smart. You know the score. You know what's going on. Absolutely. Big Z Boy says, Big Mike Obama said there's nowhere to run for a reason. Yeah. And Kitty Cat is fighting in Kami Marin, and she does not care what people think. So absolutely great comments, everybody. D Wheel says that the I don't know if I can say that word, the scum cannot be recalled because he was installed there by the you know who. Check out the book Strategic Relocation by Joel Skousen. He says Utah is a top state. Very interesting with all the Mormons there. Yeah, Pennsylvania is red. I believe most of the country is. Absolutely. Fantastic. Here's one more. Corralling people. Let's see. Oh, I missed it. Okay, I got to get. Moving can buy time, but it's not the answer, Felicia says. I think that is very right on. Okay. Marsha, moving to another state is like going to the upper deck on the Titanic. Brilliant. I'm going to end on that comment. Thank you, everybody, for being with me this afternoon, late afternoon. I love my healthy Americans. I hope that you're going to enjoy your weekend. Spend some time doing things that will render the tyrants insignificant. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your life. Love people. Enjoy people. Do what God put you here to do. That's what I'm doing here, day in, day out, all day, every day. And I will be back with you on a Monday, covering more breaking news, Peggy to the rescue, and always with the emotional uplifting and positive encouragement for vibrant living over at my other channel. And I'll see you where I see you in the very next broadcast.